Hello everyone and welcome to a special video here on SDL, as today we're gonna go over my top 10 games that participate in the Steam Wargames Fest, meaning that I have played these games or demos and that they have to participate and be on discount or available on the Steam Wargames Fest. So let's start with my number 10. And on number 10 is the game that I have played the least, but that is also because it is a demo, and that is Task Force Admiral, which is a game set in the Pacific War from the Americans' perspective. It's a deep simulator with fantastic, beautiful graphics, which is usually not the case in this genre, simulating the engagements of US carrier task forces with Japanese carriers, especially in this demo. The full-on game that will launch later this year will have a more action setup as well with land forces and so on, but here you just control your carriers in a really cool way that simulates all the send out of strike craft to destroy enemy groups, setting up your own close air patrols to protect yourself against the Japanese counterattacks and so on, and all simulates that in 1-to-1 scale. So every single plane, every single pilot has to be brought on deck, has to be reloaded and then sent off to engage the enemy, and it looks just absolutely great. On number 9 is Mechabellum, which is, in my eyes, the perfect auto-battler for RTS and strategy fans, as in this one, you aren't as randomized as in something like Teamfight Tactics. In this one, you set up big, full armies that will run into each other, and you have nearly full information. Outside of the beginning units, you know everything your opponent has access to, because you will have this access to the same kind of buffs between each round as they do. But because the buffs always come in randomized, and because the unit formations have such a great rock, paper, scissors, every battle still feels pretty fresh, and you have to adapt to what kind of effects you get from the game, like 30% cheaper units of that kind and so on. And this really makes this feel so sweet and really chess-like, as thing that no other auto battler in my eyes achieves, and it also looks pretty cool with all these mechs just crashing into each other. On the 8th, we have another fantastic game in Battle Brothers, which is a turn-based tactical RPG, and it really has the tactical written big time. As in this one, you start in a procedurally generated world as a small group or a solo adventurer, and this world is really brutal. The graphics are rather low, but the game fights and the depth of the world is pretty big, and each run feels pretty cool as well, because the world always is slightly different, but the base mechanics are pretty much the same. It has a great class system. Every fight also feels essential, because it can go wrong so quickly. The difficulty level, even on the lower difficulties, can go up quite hard against more challenging opponents, and it has all the classic fantasy tropes as well, coming around with some undead and so on. And it really feels like a kind of Game of Thrones like game. Like the Game of Thrones feeling to the world is pretty big, with the desert in the south, the north being full of snow, and it really gets you into the world as well. Fantastic little game. I played it quite a lot, and I only can recommend it if you like turn-based RPGs. It's one of the best. And it is currently 50% down. And next one is a big one with Crusader Kings III, which is the best medieval roleplay game out there. As in this one, you start as a single character that is then going on to found a dynasty when everything goes well, and you go through the ages with that dynasty, and you can't really do anything, starting in any place in Europe, Northern Africa, or Western Asia, and go on from there to found new religions, create big empires, do just go on a party spree, try to romance and sleep with everybody out there, or just become a living legend as a hunter or anything like that. There's a lot of things going on, and this is also a great simulation of medieval times, with every time I'm also coming up with random events, and you have the big wars, the big tragedies like plague events coming up that ravage the whole continent and just take everything apart. And it is just a fantastic representation of the time and a really, really strong roleplay game. And it is currently down 70% on Steam, so there really has never been a better time to start create your own dynasty in a game. And then the next game is a lot smaller than with Crusader Kings, as we come to SGS NATOs Nightmare, the most likely most underground game of this list, as SGS are developers that focus on their kind of wargame. They have a wargaming system, and NATOs Nightmare is their biggest game yet, especially in scale, as it focuses on a 1985 Cold War gone hot scenario where you are either in control of Pact or the NATO side and the whole side, and it simulates the whole front line. And you get cards that can change the setup of both sides a lot. It can be played as play by email multiplayer as well, in which mode it is a lot of fun as well. And then you fight each other either as NATO or as Pact and try to get to win the war before it goes nuclear, and try to keep the nuclear tension still as low as possible whilst fighting there. And the fights are super well simulated as well, with all the different kind of tactics and so on being represented in the individual engagements that are played out as just normal dice battles. It's a war game by heart, so dice rolls decide over a lot of things based on the calculations and stats that everything has. And it has the air war simulated, it has the ground war simulated, it has a bit of the naval war simulated as well. It's still in development to some extent. There will be a couple more updates to finish it from the developer, they said, but it is already in a really good state. And if you want to go into a really good turn-based deep wargame, this one is the one for you. Especially as it is also down 50% right now on Steam, going for $16.99. And the next game on the list is WARNO, which is currently the main game on this channel, and it's another Cold War RTS in which you control either NATO or Pact forces. And this one is all about the detail, as in the skirmish battles you fight down with individual vehicles and squads that you control over the map, and you can zoom out all the way or zoom in all the way on every map and just get right next to the soldiers to look at the beautiful graphics that this game has, or zoom out to have the whole overview over the battle to send your units around in real time and let them fight against the enemy. It has classic RTS controls there, but it also combines it nicely with wargaming features like reconnaissance and fog of war and different stealth levels for units, and then also stuff like logistics that you have to keep in mind, air support that you can call in and use to strike onto the enemy, which is really, really cool. It also has a big grand campaign in which you play similar to Total War, where you control the armies and send them around to set up ambushes or big battles in the Cold War West Germany. And then whenever the armies meet on the big campaign, you then fight it out in a skirmish battle. And all of that can be played in single player or in multiplayer, with up to 4 people in the campaigns and up to 20 people in multiplayer. And there are also tournaments which we organize here on the channel, for example, and commentate here. So there is a really lively community around this game as well. And it is currently also down 40%, so it is a really good price point for the amount of content that you get into the base game, with a lot of different nations and factions set up in this Cold War scenario in Germany. And then we continue with the worst looking game from the list, as you could mistake World Waves at first glance for just a normal Excel spreadsheet, but it is so much more than that. World of Waves is a game where you are in charge of a navy, and it goes from 1890 till all the way till 1970, so from the pre-Dreadnought era all the way into the missile age, and you have to lead that navy there by designing the ships, designing the navy, finding the real budget for all the ships, and depending on what nation you play, it's either a massive navy that you have to bring around the globe with the United Kingdom, or a small navy like the Spanish Navy that just scraps by for survival, and whenever you get into a war, it's an existential matter. And you have to set up your ships by using the amazing ship designer and go with the time as more and more technologies get researched by your country, and it's different in every single run because they unlock in different orders. The politicians also don't always follow your orders, so wars can break out randomly to some degree. You only have small impact there, and the balances between the nations can shift out around like that as well. It simulates everything from small battles between destroyer flotillas all the way up to massive carrier battles in the late game where you have hundreds of planes flying around as well. And those battles are set up in a nice semi-real-time scenario as well, where you are only in charge of the flagship and all the other ships move around you and follow your basic orders, and all of that then goes by and you will try to destroy enemy fleets in those small little battles that are always set up between the big setup where you design new ships month by month and go through the time from all the way to 1890 till 1970. And the game is also at the moment down 40%. So if you like Drachenniffel videos or you're a naval enthusiast in general, then this absolutely is a game I recommend. There is no game like it out there. And the next game on the list is a really, really wild mix of genres with Terra Invicta, which on the first glance is just a big strategy game where you lead nations, but that is not really the case, because in this one you are actually leading a faction, because the world has just gotten to know that aliens are on the way, and your faction is also deciding on how you play this, because every faction reacts to it differently. One faction wants to resist against the aliens, one wants to just outright destroy them, one wants to run away to another solar system, and another one just wants to ally with the aliens and take the world over together with them. And you don't start in control of nations, actually. You have to gain that control and also take the control away from other factions, especially the ones that are opposite of your task and what you want, and try to build ships as well. And then once you have those ships, there's also a big space battle system to this, where those ships then engage in real-time combat with the ships flying by each other's with relatively realistic simulations of physics, and shooting at each other with all different kind of weapons that also develop throughout the game. And you can also battle the aliens and so on later on throughout the solar system, send your fleets around the solar system and colonize the whole space and try to get your faction to the victory conditions that that faction has, which also makes every playthrough with the different factions pretty unique as well. And with a 35% discount, you really have a smooth entrance into the game as well, as for $25.99 it is on a pretty fair price point. And the next game is a sci-fi game as well, and in this one full out sci-fi with Nebulous Fleet Command, a game in which you build and then command your own fleet into action in up to 5v5 battles with other players who control their fleet as well. And it is a 3D game in which you really control your ships through space, and it has a really cool ship builder where you can set up your weapons, the engines, the crew compartments that you want to have in your ships, and then shoot the enemy with those. It has carriers, battleships, and small frigates that can be really deadly with big missiles that they can send out, or electronic warfare as well that plays a big role, and that is really pretty unique for a game like that. And I have played a lot of it in the past as well, as it is a fantastic game, and it is currently also down 50%, so it only costs €14.99, and it is really only recommended at that price point. Absolutely love the game. And the final game on the list is Regiments, another Cold War gone hot RTS. And this one is the easiest to get into. If you want to have an entry-level war game, I would recommend Regiments. It has solid graphics, doesn't quite look as good as WARNO, but it still looks authentic enough to get you into it. And it has really, really simple controls, a nice narrative storyline as well for the first playthrough, plus the DLC gives it an endless replayability with custom campaigns that get auto-generated and that they play fantastically as well. It has a lot of different factions of European nations and the USA, and is really, really well set up as well. And it is, as I said, the perfect entrance into Cold War and modern war simulators. And really, if you want to learn how to play these games, I would start with Regiments. It can be paused in every battle, and it has a fantastic single-player campaign and skirmish mode in it. And it is currently down 35% as well, to a nice price of 16.24 euros, and that is a just absolute steal. So thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know down below what your favorite games in the Wargames Fest are and why down below, so that others can maybe pick them up as well. And if you want to see more videos here on this channel, consider leaving a subscription down below and a like so that others can see it as well. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.